What do we want to talk about today? I had a conversation with a friend, with an acquaintance of a friend. I received an email from an acquaintance of a friend. He started an email conversation showing his displeasure with the voting rights bill. The email thread then evolved into a discussion of the 1619 project and much more. I don't know why. The thread within kind of shows his thought process. But anyway, let me go ahead and tell you what he first said. He said, if the 2020 election was the fairest in history with record turnout, what exactly are voting rights supposed to do? It's nothing but a mechanism for election fraud. And you should be careful because once fraud is established as the way the game is played, you might get outfrauded. Get it? People have to show proof of vaccine, but not identification to vote. It is so incredibly racist to say black people are too dumb to get ID. That's what this guy, he just outright wrote me that letter, So I guess it's because I talk about these issues, right? So I responded to him and I said, you answered your own question. Numero uno, the 2020 election was the fairest in history with record turnout. Numero dos, voting exploded. Numero tres, red states then enact restrictive election rules that bias minorities and poor whites, removing drop boxes, allowing hunting and gun IDs and not student IDs. Voting rights bills set a baseline so that those who would bring back the techniques that prevented some who vote could not come back to fruition. It is unempathetic to disregard black people, POCs, that town after town point out their county officials making it difficult for them to get IDs. America is still a very racist country. I live it every day. I have superseded said racism most of the time. Unfortunately, it is a burden white people don't have. It incenses me that people who themselves have prejudices against POCs attempt to make it the figment of the imagination of some. That's what I told him. He replied immediately, the 2020 election was fraudulent. It's not valid. And if America is so terrible and racist, why do you stay? He says. Okay. So I replied, this is my country as much as yours, as anyone else. And I intend to be a part of making it better. I will not simply cede anything unearned to you. I understand that racism is a necessary cancer for the plutocracy to maintain power. So I hate the plutocracy, but love all the people, including you, my friend. But I will not allow you or anyone else to disregard the evil of our founding, nor will I ever let that evil continue without working with allies to extricate it. As I say on my show, most people are good. Most of those who control us, a large percentage of the wealthy, are psychopaths. They use their wealth to program good Americans into a morass of hate. If I allow their infection to work on me, they win. If I don't, even you will eventually join me and those attempting to make a difference from humanity and not capital. That statement says more about you than reality. You are likely one of the few that are immutable. Anathema to a fact-based proof. I am happy that empirically most on the right that I have encountered belief in critical thinking and changing after they see the truth. They generally feel gullible and wonder how did they get down the rabbit hole. One has to be sufficiently humble and have real care to get there. Okay, I'm going to pause right there to see what you guys have to say so far. Daniel says racism is everywhere. Fallacy will end up doing so much more harm to blacks as it will the white people it is designed to punish. Huh? I don't know what you're talking about, but Franklin wrote, Massachusetts Constitutional Convention papers to remedy those wrongs, at least in Massachusetts. Egberto, I'd like to read that exchange. Is there an article? Actually, it's a blog, and I have to clean it up, but I'm reading from the blog that I wrote right now with that exchange. I got to clean it up some because I noticed as I was reading, there's some grammatical errors. And at first I was going to leave the grammatical errors in since it was an email exchange, but I decided that I'm going to go ahead and change it after all. Anyway, the acquaintance come back and says, yes, obviously you are a citizen by choice. Why did you choose to come to an evil nation? Why do you stay in an evil nation? I can't leave. You can. Liberals openly brag about stealing the election through fraud. We do? Where did that come from? Me no know. I don't know. But anyhow, we'll hold on with that. I replied to him and I said, I chose here, meaning America, because it has its tentacle in every country in this hemisphere. Few understand that the immigration problem and many problems from Central America to South America to the Caribbean is influenced by America. From the Chicago Boys, capitalism, to the expansion modified manifest destiny, I decided to stay where the control existed. Speaking about the evil under which we were founded is not debatable, though it's redeemable. Again, you want to speak about the evil of our founding, it's not debatable. All the things that we have done during and after our founding, it's in the record books. But that doesn't make it not redeemable. It is still redeemable. As I said, I have the right as much as you do or anyone else, sans the natives, to be here. I intend to be a part to make it a great country for all, not just a few. Be well. He replied, my ancestors were here 100 years before America existed. They weren't evil, and nobody born in a foreign nation has any right to live here. You're trying to destroy the nation that welcomed you. You are trying to destroy the system that made you prosperous. You are so full of hate and jealousy that you are no longer rational or logical. It's very sad. You must be miserable. This guy's talking about me. I mean, I am the one that you're calling mad. I am the one that you're calling. There's this thing that that people of color, specifically black people, always call about that angry black man or that angry black woman. If we raise our voice or if we say a little bit something out of being mellow, you're angry. But he's the one getting angry. He's the one calling me out. He's the one that's telling me how evil or that I need to go home. Not me. I'm being inclusive. So I replied to him. It's a good one. I said, if your ancestors were here just 100 years before its founding, like any non-native American, you were on someone else's ancestral land. That is not debatable. If they took land with violence, they did evil. If they were ceded or bought land that was taken with violence, they were complicit. None of that is debatable. America welcomed me. I will leave that for another thread some other time. But again, just like America migrated throughout the hemisphere, including creating Panama and the canal, which my ancestors built, my migration to America proper is apropos. With all due respect, I do not accept the notion that I do not have the right to be here from anyone whose ancestry is from yet another continent. You have no more right than I do. You can feel like you do, but you don't and never will. Number 5, I have no hate for any human. If you knew me and listened to my show, you would know that I have no jealousy of absolutely anyone. Jealousy is an insecurity in one's nature. I was lucky to be raised by 2 parents who ensured none of their kids had that. 6, I can understand that you would think I want to destroy the system. I want a system that serves us all, including you, of one that is, instead of one that is antiseptically enslaved. I gave up a very successful software company, you can look it up, for doing full-time political activism because in my success, I actually saw how it was the ability, because of economic design, to disaffect most. I am not your enemy. Your enemy is a system dependent on us at each other's throats. I will be civil and respectful to you. I will not, however, allow you to believe that the way things are somehow ordained and divine. At some time, the eyes of most will be opened just like they have been open for some time. Okay? Except for the pain from my daughter's second stroke and her fight to get back to normal, I am the happiest I have ever been, even though I am 91% less prosperous doing this work. What I mean is I've lost 90% of my income, okay? Doing this kind of work. But I'm the happiest I have ever been, bar none, because you finally feel like you're doing something for humanity. You finally feel, when we sit back and always ask the question, why don't somebody do this? Why don't somebody do that? You look in the mirror and you say, well, maybe that somebody has got to be me. All right, I'll pause here with this response because I see some more commentary on the screen. So let's go. I know Daniel was going to be a big part of this, but let's continue. Let's see what we have here. Egberto, I'd like to read the exchange. I'll clean the exchange. It's posted already, but I got to clean up a lot of grammatical errors in it. Anyhow, Michael Renner says, Egberto, I'm going to read it properly when you post the link. A bit distracted right now, getting a call to go visit the great uncle. Hey, give your great uncle my regards, please, Michael Renner. In fact, give him a big hug for me. Bruce says, the dialogue with my friend is difficult, but may be productive. Thanks for the help. Hey, Bruce, notice I didn't include your name or your friend's name in the dialogue at all because I like to maintain people anonymity, but you're the one who spilled the beans. All right, Daniel Ledo says, leftist Marxists have polluted the minds of American blacks for decades with a victim mentality. We are seeing the consequences of those lies in deeply divided America, where millions of blacks wrongly believe racism surrounds and oppresses them. The fault of that is squarely at the feet of people who share ideology with Egberto Willies. Thank you for saying that because you give me a chance to expand on that. Let's dissect Brother Ledo. Leftist Marxists have polluted the minds of black Americans. So first they say black people ain't stupid. Now you're saying black people are stupid, that our minds can be polluted to think that the racism that we live with every day ain't real. In other words, when I go into a store and they're following me, it's my imagination. When my credit is great, my credit rating is great, and I go for a car, and somebody with a credit rating 100 points below me gets a better rate than I do. Oh, it's not racism. It just happens to be. When I go for a bank loan, I'm writing a new book of all the tribulations a black professional man has gone through. Because you see, all my buddies, especially my white brothers and sisters, they know me. I'm always happy. I'm not, I don't hold a crutch. I don't talk about a lot of these things. And they think everything has always been great. From the time I started working in industry, I've gone through so much because of my hue. And I just lived through it and walked through it. But the most difficult thing, or the most infuriating thing, is when you have a guy like Ledo come out and he says, we are deeply divided in America because we're letting black people believe that there's a racism there that doesn't exist. It doesn't matter that he sees people flying the Confederate flags and saying these things, and none of that matters. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your eyes at all. Don't believe that you don't have wealth because those people who could build wealth on their homes, right? Who built wealth on their homes did, and you were never able to, and now you're being told, lift yourself up. You can do it just like this other guy. Well, this guy had income that he was able to bring in from, you remember when the West was open? The West was open and all those people who were moving west, they got their land. They could mark off as much land as they wanted and take it. But it was reserved for only one set of people. All these things are a part of American history. All these things are exact reason black folk and other POCs are in the conditions that they are in right now. But you don't want people to know that. You want it to look as if it is a genetic thing why they are below economically, when it is a systemic problem that causes it, and something that can be enumerated. But you don't want anybody learning about it, because if like I preach all the time, most people are good people. They just don't know. And if most Americans knew this, they would say, how could a few of my ancestors, because like I spoke to this guy later on, it's a few people that pollute the many. It's that bad apple in that container that infects everything else. And those few, the bad founding fathers that we had infected the whole damn nation, and the good founding fathers just had to stay whatever. So when Daniel Ledo tried to imply like, oh, somehow the liberals are trying to make black folks believe that there's racism that isn't there, wake up. It's a silly statement, my brother. Michael Renner says America is a land of immigrants, has at various points in its history chosen to choose their doors to certain peoples. And it's almost always people of color. I don't know when it wasn't people of color. Bruce Pollard says, we had a nice chat about what evil means. All right, let's see. Daniel Ledo says, liar, you want to replace the system. You have to destroy the one currently in place. You want to replace the culture. We have seen how you do this by destroying the traditional culture. Just be honest. What is culture? What is traditional culture? Let me continue reading, because I think it is funny how you say we want to destroy culture as if America's culture is your culture, right? You don't mean destroy American culture. What you really mean is you want to have only your culture be the culture of the land. The rest of the conversation, I think, is instructive. Let's continue. My acquaintance said, my biological father was an American Indian living on reservations. Mother's side goes back to 1600. Daughters of the revolution and all that. I was given away for adoption because nice white girls don't mate with Indians. My adopted family returned me when they divorced when I was 10. Me and my white privilege. And my Indian ancestors were killing each other mercilessly. The Sioux were coming down to the plains at the same time whites were. The entire nation that taken land by force in 1600 was evil, is frankly pants on the head retarded. People have battled over land time after time. I'm not doubting that at all. I am just saying you came, you stole land that belonged to somebody else, and yet people do that all the time. But don't try to make it magnanimous. You are a perfect example of how communist propaganda like 1619 Project, BLM, gay rights, and everything else exists only to convince people that America is evil and they will destroy it. How did you turn BLM, gay rights? I mean, you lost me there, but it's okay. You bite the hand that feeds you. Curious what you think your job in the commune will be. The acquaintance of my friend then felt compelled to address the 1619 Project. He said, this is shameful, isn't it? Amazing how we openly teach children lies. It's designed to make them hate America. So like you, they will want to destroy it. Let me tell you something that kind of behooved me with this guy. In another conversation, this guy told me he was not a right-winger. He was not a Republican. That's what he tried to tell me, right? In a private email. He wanted to try to tell me that he wasn't following these ideology, but he is falling down exactly the talking points that you get on Fox News. The thing that we got to extricate, the indoctrinator we got to extricate. So I replied, I find it amusing that you think the telling of our story, America's story, our history, which the 19 Project or Zinn's book makes you hate America. I think those who promote that notion are attempting to instill fear into Americans. It is amazing. I find that telling our history and how much we have overcome speaks to our current and potential strengths to change to be better. No race, hell no. There is no race. No ethnicity has a monopoly on violence or evil, whether black, brown, white, or white in hue. But we are recounting American history here. We could do Brazilian history and others and apply the same critical analysis. Let me shock you. I hold the Africans who sold slaves to the Westerners in the same contempt as the slave owners. They are all evil. You see, there are the small amount of people that leads evil. Many of the executives of our corporations are the abstraction of evil for the shareholder, the system. In other words, the shareholder don't want you to know, don't care how it gets the money. He doesn't care that people are getting slaughtered because he's abstracted for it. The executives are abstracted from what their employees are doing to kill, to maim, but commanded by them. And the shareholders don't even know that. The shareholders are even a step aside. Abstracted evil. The shareholder. Okay? Look, man, try to listen to my words through an unbiased lens. I'm not attacking you. I have nothing against you. We are all product of the system, but it is on us to see the truth, the puppeteers, and then mitigate it. You should also read the 1619 Project. My daughter is in a Twitter Space book club, and I'm learning so much which corroborated untaught history. Again, we do not need to defend the evils. Whoops, I need to, whoa. There we go. We do not need, where did I missed my point. Bear with me a second. We do not need, ¿Dónde estoy? You should also read the 1619 Project. My daughter is in Twitter's Facebook club, and I'm learning so much with corroborated untaught history. Again, we do not need to defend the evils of a small number of our forefathers. It is their doing, not ours. But we sure as hell should not continue to hurt others to protect their legacy. The acquaintance writes back, find it amusing that you think the telling of our story, our history, which the 1619 Project Zen's book makes you hate America. Then he says, and you hate America, openly hate it. You think it was evil. It's evil and has to be changed. How can you love evil? Why do you want to change that which you love? Very little in 1619, this is true. Of course, that's not a true statement. It is just propaganda. It's based on bald-faced lies. Nothing is written by anyone with knowledge of history or economics. It has never been defended by any historians. Of course, we know who wrote the history, right? So when we get history from the other people who lived it, it's not real. But the master who wanted to make the history sweeter than it was, you're ready to listen to that, right? All right, I said to him, I replied, read my words in the context written. You are wedded to the idea that I hate America because it allows you to hate me. Try thinking that just like one has a friend and relative with flaws, you don't throw them away, you work with them. The plutocracy wants to take our humanity away. They need you to hate me. They need you to think that I want to inflict harm on you or America to justify that hate. If we can concentrate on hating each other, then they continue to rob both of us blind. That is the entire reason I do what I do, to stop it. Again, assume for once that I'm not the enemy, sir. What specifically is not true about the 1619 Project? Well, he then sent me a few links. I read the links. They really was just unobjective links. But he wrote the following. He said, I don't hate you. I don't know you to hate you. I don't even hate my ex-wife. The biggest irony is that what you accuse me of is what you let them do to you with the 1619 Project and BLM. I'm a civic nationalist. He doesn't want to call himself a right-wing racist. I'm a civic nationalist is what he called himself. Look, you know what that is. I don't care about color. I care about culture. I am very against multiculturalism. If you want to convert America into something it isn't and has never been, and you think my ancestors were evil, then politically you are the enemy. You are trying to subvert democracy and free market principles. All that woke crap, all the BLM and 1619 and everything else has one goal: the destruction of America as we know it. You yourself want to destroy capitalism and think we are evil. Again, how can you love what you say is evil? You can't. You hate the nation that offered you sanctuary and where you prospered. You hate the medical system saving your daughter. It's very strange. As far as history goes, I don't subscribe to the great man theory. I am a people's history guy. Germany created Hitler. Hitler did not create Germany. America created Trump. Trump didn't create it. I agree with you there, though. That last paragraph, I agree with you. He was created. So my reply. And this is where I'm going to, this is my last thing to him, because at this point, I don't do the circular thing. I get the points out and then open it for everybody, because I know people in general will see through the minutia. So this is what I told him. I said, I've read those articles that you suggested, and it is the pushback I would expect. There is so much of our history that is myth and told by those who would sanitize it. But reality is tough. I like the way this Forbes article read, and I gave an objective Forbes article for him to read. Nothing special in the article. But then I continued. The carnage and hate that POCs endured, and though not as bad, continue to endure, that alone should give credence to much in the book. I participate in the debates on the book. It gets healthy, and some think at times Hannah Jones was too matter of fact. Anyhow, our initial sin was very violent, instigated by a few, but perpetrated by many. When one tells me that's not the case, it concerns me. As I said, even though I smile and love, I have lived it. Like I said, you choose to be immutable as we speak past each other. You are wedded in an ideology that hurts. America has always been multicultural. Africans, Chinese, Europeans, etc. built this country. If we did not have them, America would be different. As such, America is inherently multicultural, and no one should allow forced dominant culture to prevail. Period. You know, earlier Daniel Ledo says, you want to change our culture. What culture am I trying to change? America doesn't have one culture. America has some founders that brought in a whole bunch of other people, and other people brought in a whole lot of people that formed this country. And all those cultures make this country since its beginning. It's not like, okay, we got a good American culture, and then we had all these foreigners coming in to change it. America was built with foreigners, because even the original people who wrote the Declaration of Independence were damn foreigners. So let's get it right. Get it right and stop having limited thought processes. Now, I enjoyed our discourse. While you chose not to go down my logic tree, I am sure that seed is in your brain, and maybe at some time, when you open yourself up, it may grow, or maybe not. But like I said, you and people like you, the immutable, thankfully, are a small, even vocal minority. As such, you will die out. And thankfully, for the next generations, we will have that society MLK and other good people have spoken about, a social democracy where your worth is what you decide to bring to the table. You have a wonderful rest of your day. I am done with this thread. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.